What's up, everybody? Today we have the semi-final matches of Qtcinderella against Cizzorz. Make sure, guys, if you want to stay updated with the finals, which happens tomorrow, make sure that you guys subscribe. But now let's start the game. So Cizzorz started with the white pieces, and already Qtcinderella does a little bit of a mistake. She goes ahead and plays f6 to defend the pawn. It's way better to defend the pawn by developing a piece like knight to c6. And the reason for this is that this pawn now, not only is it not developing a piece, but also you add a diagonal that you can attack the king with. So for example, in this line, notice that now you can even take the pawn here and then send your queen on a mission, and it becomes very dangerous. Already some mating ideas. It becomes a whole mess for black. So that's why this could be a little bit of a mistake already. And that's exactly what happens. But instead of taking the pawn, we just see white castling here. So Cizzorz is completely fine. Now we see d4, and the big real blunder of the game, we see d6, defending both pieces. But obviously a bishop is worse than a pawn, so you already have some blunders. Also, now this piece is very it's a very undefended piece. It could become a very big weakness for black. So there are a lot of weaknesses here. For example, already a developing move, hitting the pawn here. She doesn't see it and instead just sends out her bishop. Instead of taking the pawn, he moves his knight. There's no real reason to. And in this position, you should definitely start taking the pawn, but it's still okay. We see some developing moves. Now we see a trade, not something I would particularly recommend. Number one, your bishop is a relatively good piece, and also you're making black's position a little bit more strong, because obviously this pawn was weak. Now it's part of a big chain, so it might be a little bit harder to crack, but you still have a very big advantage. It's probably not going to go your way. Your opponent's way. That being said, she does find a very good idea, swinging the bishop over here, creating a lot of tension on this part of the board. And notice that if you take, you need to make sure to take back the knight, not taking here, for example. So she does very good now. But now we see c4, the bishop's kicked back. We see f4. I like this move a lot because it just kind of opens up the position. And when you have an advantage of material, you want to start simplifying. So even pawns matter like this. We see a couple of trades happen here. The bishop, being kicked back. And now a beautiful move, a rook to c1. Very quiet, but the point is sending it over to c5, attacking multiple pieces. It could be very dangerous. In fact, it does become very dangerous. You'll notice right now. So I really like how Cizzorz ended up playing this middle game phase, or even closer to the end game. It's a very beautiful game, and you'll notice that he even manages to win this pawn. So he does really well cleaning up the position. He even plays this, and now he finds a beautiful mate in this position where he goes bishop to a4. This is a beautiful mate. You can block twice, but the point is you're gonna get checkmated. There's nowhere the king can go because of the rooks just cutting it off, and also this rook. So it's really beautiful, and it's very rare to mate like this where the king has a full file that you're not controlling. It's very rare, but everything seems to be blocked. So that is how the game ends. I mean, in the actual game, Qtcinderella just played c6, but that is checkmate. Let's move on to game 2. So Qtcinderella has the white pieces. We see the queen's pawn opening. Again, a little bit of a mistake. Typically, you're going to first want to take out your bishop before you close up the position, especially in a queen's pawn opening. This bishop becomes very important, especially, for example, in the London system. You want to take it out first, then you can close it up. So that's a little bit of a mistake. So maybe she needs to go over a little bit more opening, and I would recommend everyone to go over it. But she does get an incredible advantage on move 4 already. Just winning a free piece. And Cizzorz, I mean, he just missed the fact that the bishop takes, so it seems very bad. But I think a big thing in chess, especially in beginner games, is not to lower your confidence. Even if you blunder a full piece, remember that your opponent can just as easily blunder a piece of their own. The game is certainly not over. So I think a big thing, don't lose confidence in your skills. Continue playing the game. And keep going and see what happens. And this game actually really proves that the game is never over, even if you blunder a piece on move 4. So the game continues. Both players play developing moves. We see trades by white. Not typically something you want to do if you're down material. And now we see c4. I really like this move. Just opening up the position, allowing maybe the bishop to become a little bit more of a key piece. Right now the bishop is very sad, so after trading, the bishop can be get to a much nicer diagonal, and it could become more useful. the bishop hops down. There are, ideas maybe of pushing the pawn. There isn't a direct threat, but this could still be annoying. So we see after this move, we see b3 stopping the attack from coming as easily. The bishop gets developed, kicks back to b2. Pawns continue. This move, I think, is completely fine. You could also go ahead and play this because, again, you're up in material, so you're completely fine with trading in this position. But instead, e4 is also okay because you're allowing your rook to kind of get into the game. Before, the rook is kind of stuck in this little square here. It's not really doing much. So this allows it to get to this open file. So I think that's a good move. Eventually, we do see the trade after a couple of trades here. And actually, before we get to the trade of the knight, notice in this position, you have two options. If you take with this, you blunder a piece. If you take with this, you open the file, but it's definitely worth to open the file instead of blundering a piece, because notice after take, the file is still open. So it's a good decision making here, taking with the right pawn. And now, like I said, we see the trade happen. So she's playing great. I think, in this point, you probably want to take with the bishop, but it's still completely fine. Some trades happen here. More trades happen. There isn't really chances to make a lot of mistakes. You can try to pin the bishop, and that's obviously a huge mistake because of this move. You just win the queen. But beyond that, in this position, it's very pleasant. You can get away with a lot of moves here. You can take the bishop. You can play queen d5, check, winning a piece. So there's a lot of possibilities here. All seem relatively fine. In the game, we get a trade, and then the queen moves there. He blunders a rook here, so it seems even more crushing. But once again, don't lose your confidence. In this position, it's basically going to be up to white to decide if Qtcinderella is going to blunder very severely. And in that case, maybe he actually has a chance. But most likely, it is game over. But still, continue playing. And what you'll notice is a horrible blunder here. After the king moves, it seems so crushing. And then she just quickly rushes into this check. The queen obviously guards it as well as the king. So she blunders a queen. And it's sad because she played a wonderful game up until this point. Really strong chess. And very high level thinking. But here she just blunders. And there's not much more you can do in this position. It's basically game over. Cizzorz goes ahead, closes up the game. But she just decides to resign. So that's how the game ends. That's how the match ended. Make sure if you guys do want to, if you don't want to miss the finals, make sure you guys subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and peace out.